I don't know how many of you have been keeping up with the news or like all the things coming out of Australia, but like Australia, and I'm not saying this with any sense of hyperbole or exaggeration, Australia is nosediving into a full authoritarian state, like China levels. Like I'm seeing police beating people in the street and like pepper spraying children. I'm seeing them like drag people off of beaches, like beating them. I seen like a cop stamping on a guy's head and all that, man, and like they're charging into people's homes. Now they're doing like full surveillance. Like Australia is circling the drain, by the way. Like honestly, look at what's happening in Australia. But in order to, you can't truly be an authoritarian state without utter extreme surveillance of the citizenry, as well as access to all their data and information without a warrant, those pesky warrants protecting people's rights and stuff. Wouldn't it be so much better if those weren't a thing? Well, Australia has now done that. Unprecedented surveillance bill rushed through Parliament in 24 hours, because that's what they do with these type of bills. You don't let anybody know they're happening, you get them right through the door fast enough before anyone can mount any type of protest. Australian police can now hack your device, collect or delete your data, and take over your social media accounts. That's fascist. That actually is fascist. The Australian government has been moving towards a surveillance state for some years already. Now they are putting the nail in the coffin with an unprecedented surveillance bill that allows the police to hack your device, collect or delete your data, and take over your social media accounts without sufficient safeguards to prevent abuse of these new powers. Well, that's what authoritarian states do. They don't like safeguards. They don't like anything coming between them and what they want to do. They want to do whatever the hell they want. And there's nothing you can do about it. That's why pesky warrants, pesky human rights, they're stopping us from achieving absolute control. Fanta. This month, the Australian government has passed a sweeping surveillance bill worse than any similar legislation to any other Five Eye country. The surveillance legislation amendment, called Identify and Disrupt, Bill 2020, gives the Australian Federal Police, AFP, and the Australian Criminal Intelligence Commission 3 new powers for dealing with online crime. Data disruption warrant gives the police the ability to disrupt data by modifying, copying, adding or deleting it, which means there are certain things that police might be able to change, things like messages and DMs and stuff like that. And man, that's so for example, the police could go into your social media account and send a message to a friend of yours and go, "Hey man, would you like to buy any cocaine?" and then the police can go, "Well, look at this DM here, it's on your account. So does anyone else have access to your account? No, it's just you, and you tried to sell a man cocaine." Yeah, that's, oh Jesus Christ. That's really bad. Network activity warrant allows the police to collect intelligence from devices or networks that are used or likely to be used by those subject to the warrant. And 3, account takeover warrant allows the police to take control of an online account, for example social media, for the purposes of gathering information for an investigation. The 2 Australian law enforcement bodies will soon have the power to modify, add, copy or delete your data should you become a suspect in an investigation or a serious crime. Now basically, this is some of the things that happen right now. This is just let me put my tinfoil hat on for just a little second here. Okay. Data disruption. Okay, the police can modify any of the data, okay, which basically gives them carte blanche to plant any type of evidence they want or any type of data that they can use to incriminate you. Then they get the network activity warrant, which is things that they will be able to, they can then, with that information, download all of your data, all of your, IP addresses, passwords, accounts, emails, absolutely everything. So they now have all the data, which, bear in mind, they can edit and change if they want. And then you get the account takeover, and what the account takeover is for is when you finally get arrested and you're getting all these false charges put against you, you now no longer have access to your possibly large social media following, because let's face it, this is for people with large social media followings that can get information out there. They're able to then seize your account so that you are not able to tell the masses that you are in fact being stitched up. I'm just saying this is something that could come from this. I'm not saying it will. But You know what I mean. The two Australian law enforcement bodies will soon have the power to modify, add, copy or delete your data. Oh, in fact, I just read that. Amendments rushed through Parliament. The Human Rights Law Centre criticises that there are insufficient safeguards and that the government ignored crucial recommendations of the Bipartisan Parliamentary Joint Committee on Intelligence and Security that stronger safeguards are needed to protect the privacy of all Australians while rushing the amendment through Parliament on August the 25th. Now, basically, like, I appreciate, you know, the Human Rights Law Centre, you know, bringing all that up to the Australian government, but they know this. They full well know this. Like, see, whenever you go up to any government and go, this law you're passing doesn't have any safeguards and it affects people's security and safety and privacy and rights, the governments are like, oh, does it? Oh, we never noticed that at all. Oh, it's a good thing you brought that to our attention. Yeah. Like, see the things that you're pointing out to them. That was the point. That is why they are passing this law. Like, there's a pandemic going on right now, and never let a good tragedy go to waste. It is, you know, governments have been using this to their advantage since this started. It is alarming that instead of accepting the committee's recommendations and allowing time for scrutiny of subsequent amendments, the Morrison government rushed these laws through Parliament in less than 24 hours to not give anyone enough time to kick up fuss. What makes this legislation even worse is that there is no judicial oversight. A data disruption or network activity warrant could be issued by a member of the Administrative Appeals Tribunal. A warrant from a judge of a superior court is not needed. Yep, that was the point. Pesky warrants, protecting rights. Australian companies are obliged to comply when presented with such a warrant from the Administrative Appeals Tribunal. Australian companies, system administrators, etc. must comply and actively help the police to modify, add, copy or delete the data of a person under investigation. Refusing to comply could have one end up in jail for up to 10 years according to the new bill. God damn. Basically, see how this whole was just following orders thing, right? See if I says, no, I'm not going to do any of that because that completely violates that person's rights. Yeah, off to jail for a decade I go. Required hacking activities could include altering, copying, deleting data, intercepting and modifying communications, surveilling networks, and changing account credentials. Fascinating. Politicians justify the need for the bill. This will be good. By stating that it is intended to fight child exploitation. Yeah, think of the children. And terrorism, which happens a lot in Australia. Did you know that? However, the bill itself enables law enforcement to investigate any serious Commonwealth offence or serious state offence that has a federal aspect. Like, for example, you know how... what was it called? You know, the Patriot Act and the Snoopers Charter, where it says, oh no, this is for to catch you know, child traffickers and terrorists and all that type of stuff. Even though for both of those, the overwhelming vast majority of arrests and charges made under such an act, it wasn't for those. A lot of it was political dissent. Isn't that weird? Isn't that really weird? Strange, isn't it? In fact, this wording enables police to investigate any offence which is punishable by imprisonment of at least 3 years, including terrorism, sharing child abuse material, which obviously off to jail you fucking go, violence, yeah, obviously goes without saying, acts of piracy. Wait a minute, do you mean like legit like piracy or like downloading Attack on Titan from a certain website? Bankruptcy, any offence which is punishable by imprisonment of at least 3 years. Bankruptcy. And company violations, acts of things. Right, hold on. Bankruptcy, you can get... Can you go to jail for running out of money? I think it's just the wording of that. I don't think that that's a thing. The Australian surveillance bill was heavily criticised by Senator Lydia Thorpe, the Green spokesperson for Justice. The Richardson Review concluded that this bill enables the AFP and ACIC to be judge, jury and executioner. Yep, that was the point of the bill. Governments love shit like that, man. That's not how we deliver justice in this country. The bill does not identify or explain why these powers are necessary, and our allies in the United States, the United Kingdom, Canada and New Zealand do not grant law enforcement these rights. I wouldn't call them rights, to be honest. In effect, this bill would allow spy agencies to modify, copy or delete your data with a data disruption warrant, collect intelligence on your online activities with a network activity warrant. Also, they can take over your social media and other online accounts and profiles with an account takeover warrant. End of human rights. The new Australian surveillance bill signals the end of respect for human rights in Australia. Yeah, human rights are going right down the fucking toilet. I've been talking to a few people who are from Australia, and basically history is an excellent indicator for certain things. People are seeing the writing on the fucking wall, and they're planning on leaving. For lawyers Angus Murray, chair of Electronic Frontiers Australia's policy team, the hacking powers pose a serious risk to our civil liberties. This is now a regime in Australia where we have conferred power on law enforcement agencies to hack Australians and potentially overseas persons' computers, and to take over accounts and modify and delete data on those accounts. Australia doesn't have constitutionally enshrined rights to political speech. It seems that a lot of countries that don't have that end up becoming extremely authoritarian. How about that? And other human rights. But if we are going to give law enforcement these powers, that should be checked and balanced against a human rights instrument at federal level. Murray warns that there could come a point where this power is used against society. That's the plan. That's the plan. I mean, like, let's just go, oh, sorry, government, you appear to have accidentally, just point it out. It's not accidental. They're doing it on purpose. This is the end game. This is the end goal. Let's just at least be honest about it. Call them for what they are. In theory, at least, the police could put something like child exploitation images onto your computer. While something like this is not the intention of the bill, there is also no significant safeguards against it. There have been quite a few governments that have done things like that in the past. Basically, if there is a certain political dissident who you really, really do not like, and he is a great thorn on your side, and you check absolutely everything about his online profile, you monitor him 24 hours a day, you check and make sure he's paid his taxes and all that type of stuff, and you realise that, god damn, you're not even going to be able to Al Capone this guy. This guy is squeaky clean. Absolutely squeaky clean. So how do you get rid of him then? Well, maybe you'll just remotely access his computer and put a couple of little files in there and then raid his house. And then not only do you get to confiscate all of his electronic equipment that allows him to do his activism, which is always the bonus of that type of thing, but you get to completely annihilate his public image and destroy all of his activism, his legacy, and the things he was advocating for. It's a genius plan. If I was an authoritarian government, fuck yeah, I would absolutely do that. I would absolutely do that to someone. It's an amazing, excellent plan that's extremely effective. And it is something that governments have done in the past. Surveillance is power. Having the ability to secretly hack into people's computers, take over their social media channels, and spy on them fundamentally undermines our right to privacy. Yes, it does. Surveillance is power, and that is a threat to our free and open societies. In Germany, we know from recent history how devastating a surveillance state is. Together, we must fight for privacy. I absolutely agree. I'm in absolute agreement with you. However, the Australian government knows full well what it is doing. All the things you just pointed out, these are the problems that could arise. These aren't the problems that could arise. These are the plan. This is the reason that this law was released. Anytime a government releases a law like this, see how the problems that you can identify, those aren't the side effects. Those are the goals. Those are what the government wants, right? So basically, Australia, I would probably revamp your entire government. I would get every single person that's currently in it, especially the ones that voted for this bill, voted out of power. And if you're not able to do that, well, leave.